What's going on there, folks? Good Saturday morning. It's the Earthmaster here on the live stream with an update video on this Saturday, June 18th date, 2022. It's about 11:11 a.m. California time. Latest quake shows a small microquake, 0.9. Looks like it was a 0.9 now. It switched over here to 3.3 in the South America region. A lot of activity ramping up overnight, including some earthquake activity out here along the East Coast. A 3.9 earthquake came in just after midnight my time, probably right about the time I went to bed, figures. 3.9 in the Georgia area. Let's go ahead and check out some specifics here of what's going on out there along this area of the country, because we don't get too much activity out there in this area of the states. Of course, seismically active zones around Charleston. They've had some rather large quakes in the past. But over here around Georgia, we don't get too much activity. Looking at the last 7 days of all magnitudes here, I remember seeing this one up north near Augusta. Had a 2.2 yesterday. That was actually, that was yesterday's quake. And I thought that was odd even. And now overnight had a 3.9 earthquake that struck relatively shallow. Looks like about just outside of Stillmore, Georgia. The depth of this earthquake about 0.8, so under just 1 kilometer. So it's pretty crazy there. The Did You Feel It reports are all over the place. Quite a bit of folks reported feeling this 3.9 earthquake. Couple different factors regarding that. The depth of that earthquake for one, and also the type of land that's out there. A lot of times east of the Rockies, they tend to feel these earthquakes over a broader area due to the type of sediment and dirt and land. All that stuff out there makes plays a big factor in how far these earthquakes can be felt. Considering out here along the West Coast, a lot of folks may not even feel a 3-pointer. 3.9, yes, but 3.9 would be limited on the distance that earthquake was felt. But this one was felt all over the place. Quite a few folks reported feeling some light to moderate shaking, specifically right around the epicenter of the earthquake. Did you feel it responses, of course, numerous all over the place there in Georgia and some surrounding areas. So pretty, somewhat of a strong earthquake, right? We just don't get them too often. I did pull up a little bit of data here from the what's called shakeout, the Great Southeast Shakeout, and this covers a little bit of activity here in Georgia. Of course, the New Madrid zone, much further west of this area, but back in 1811, 1812, those earthquakes were felt broadly all over the eastern part of the country, just due to their size. And the again, because they're east of the Rockies, they're felt over a much broader area. Looks like back in 1886, near the Charleston, South Carolina area, there was some severe shaking experience in Georgia. Looks like a couple other earthquakes throughout time. 1872, there was a little bit of activity there around the Mill-Edgeville area. 1875, a couple other earthquakes kicking up here. But let's I pulled up the catalog map here. Let me see if I can find it, see what I did with it. Here we go. This here's the catalog of 2.5 and above over the last, since records have been kept here. The big one that struck over here around the seismically active zone in North Carolina was this guy right here, 7.0, back in 1886. That's a big one. If that were to strike today, that's definitely do quite a bit of damage. But this earthquake did do some damage to the Georgia area, even though it's a ways away. Again, this type of earthquake activity is felt broader, over a broader region here in this area of the country. Now, looking at specifically where this 3.9 struck, this is specifically the area right around it. Looks like we've had at least a 3.6 within the vicinity of that 3.9, which is in the orange circle. 3.6 back in 2003 in the same area roughly, and back in 1976 had a 3.7. So, and then of course as you get over here around Savannah and other areas, they've seen a couple smaller earthquakes as well, 4.1 and whatnot for this area. But looking, for the southeastern region here, definitely does see quite a bit of activity if you look at in terms of history, and more specifically here around this area of the South Carolina region. But yeah, it's not unheard of, but it's just not common, right? A 3.9 in Georgia, definitely not common. I did check out the seismograph meter. This is from a station in Florida, the Disney Wilderness Preserve there in Florida. Picked this up pretty nicely. That's the signature there of the 3.9 that struck there in Georgia. There is some fault systems over there, although this USGS map doesn't really necessarily show individualized faults through the Georgia area. This mostly covers a portion of the South Carolina region and that area of the country. All this activity kind of kicking up here following, let me go back to my map here, back to today's current map. All this activity kind of following some movement last night in the Gulf of California. Now it's somewhat late last night when these earthquakes came into the Gulf of California. Seen quite a few earthquakes there in a little swarm fashion. Nothing really showing up today. Largest one was a 5.2. But all this activity here, seems like this Georgia earthquake came in just about 3 hours or so following the activity there in the Gulf. We did see some further movement in the California as well. But there's definitely something kind of brewing up here around the North American continent, I believe. Obviously. And then got to remember, time has passed a little bit since the large earthquake there in the South Carolina region. Quite a bit of time. But that's not the only area that can see some larger quakes out here. When was this one? Back in, I think that we had one out in 2007, right? Had somewhat of a larger one here. Oh, I can't remember exactly where it was at. May have been 2004. But either way, earthquakes do happen, and they happen, well, they can happen pretty much anywhere. Look at this one back out in Florida. Had a 4.4 back in 1879, so activity can definitely ramp up for sure anywhere. Let's see here. Stand by for just a second here, folks. So let's see if we got any microquakes. Let me kick on the microquake chart here. Looks like not much else going on here following that 3.9. Little spotty activity throughout Oklahoma and northern Kansas. 2.5 out there, northern Kansas. A little earthquake activity inland into parts of northern New Mexico. Had a 2.8. That's kind of a little odd earthquake. I kind of look at these odd ones, maybe get a regional view of where the dynamics of the pressure are. And these little 3 earthquakes right here in Georgia up to northern Kansas, and this one up here in northern New Mexico is a little odd. Just really don't see too much activity up there. And the same for northern Kansas. Let me check and see what we got for the satellite view. Not seeing a whole lot of any type of pumping operations up there. This could be definitely fault related in that area. Up there around the Smoky Hills, just north of there. Movement around Puerto Rico looks like it's kind of died off a little bit last night, and the days prior we've seen quite a bit of uptick here in this region. But today a little activity north of the Puerto Rico area. I think the last one we've seen last night was up here in this area just outside the Puerto Rico Trench. Actually, it looks like right in it at 43 kilometers there. Super deep trench zone in the ocean. Caribbean Sea, rest of the Caribbean plate not showing too much other activity. We're still continuing to see the swarm here along the Middle America Trench. Of course, USGS not showing it. It's on the EMSC model. I'll check that out here in just a second. Goodness. South America, pretty quiet. Not a whole lot going on in terms of 4.0 and above. The Atlantic Ocean, about the same. Nothing going on out there. Hawaii, see what's going on. Looks like your typical day out there in the blue ocean. The Big Island. One earthquake out here on Mauna Loa. Got a 1.8. Pretty shallow earthquake there. Negative 1.2. Very shallow surface quake. And most of the activity has been confined here to the southeastern region of the Big Island over the last 24 hours. So let's check out West Coast activity, considering all that movement that we've seen late last night here. Have we seen any further adjustments up here? No major swarms to take note of. We did see a little activity here on the Brawley seismic zone. Just one small earthquake and a couple earthquakes here within the last hour showing up there on the San Jacinto fault zone. But I really haven't seen any noticeable increase in activity or odd earthquake activity following that movement there in the Gulf of California last night. Looks like things kind of looking like the same as they were yesterday. Some movement up and down the San Andreas fault. Seeing those small microquakes kick up here, up and down this section. Aside from that, yeah, really not a whole lot going on. Goodness. Woo! We go from cooler weather to much warmer weather today, and that could have an effect on somebody's health, couldn't it? I don't know. 2.9 way out there around the Gorda Ridges. Looks like that one came in 11:05 UTC time, so that was a while ago, about 7 hours ago. So this activity is kind of following the movement that we've seen here over the last week. Did see quite a few 4s and 5s in this swarm of earthquakes there around the Blanco fracture zone, and it looks like it's still somewhat active. Seeing that that 2-pointer out there today. Did see a little bit of deeper movement here into the area following this 2.9. Pretty quick. This 2.8 at 17 kilometers. Getting up there a little bit towards the locked area of the Cascadia subduction zone. Some movement up around the Mount St. Helens area. Looks like a couple earthquakes shown up there on the map. Rest of the Intermountain West regions look pretty quiet. Yellowstone National Park, let me pull these guys up here real quick and see if we got anything to take note of. And doesn't look too active. Looks pretty calm. Looking at the seismograph stations there, not a whole lot of earthquake activity showing up whatsoever. Alaska still showing some movement, looks like around the just north of Anchorage, a little swarming activity, it looks like, including a 3.3 near the Meadow Lakes, Alaska area. Somewhat deep, 38 kilometers there into that region. And a little spotty activity throughout the Aleutian Trench. And into the Kamchatka region, got a 4.7. Excuse me. Goodness. And of course, I don't have nothing to drink. Little spotty activity throughout the Japan region too. A little bit of uptick we're seeing here along the Kermadec Trench. Looks like a 5.2 kicked off there overnight. A little subsequent shallower earthquake there. 4.9 there within the last 3 hours or so into this region. I still think we need to watch this area here for some potential larger scale movement. We'll see though how it plays out, right? 4.4, super deep. Look at that. 622 kilometer deep, 4.4. Getting things moving down there again. 5.4 in the Vanuatu area at 127 kilometers deep. So overall, deeper activity kind of ramping up there along this area. And some movement throughout the Indonesia area, including an earthquake right smack dab into the Java Trench with a 5.3. This area very capable of producing some significant size earthquakes. 62 kilometers for this at 5.3. And just a little spotty activity out here around Iran again, where that swarming's taking place. But regionally, if you look, if you look at this map as a whole, I think we can say, safe to say, there's definitely a lot of noticeable increase in activity over the week around the Caribbean plate, and also up here on this section of the North American plate. In this aspect, I guess it'd be the southern portion of the North American plate, considering it stretches way up north. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of squeezing and adjustment going on down here. Not to mention the swarms. Let me pull up the earthquake swarms that are going on along the Middle America Trench. Let's see here if I can bring this up. Looks like there was also a couple 4s inland into Mexico as well that the USGS is not showing. And also, yeah, some further 3s in that mix of activity there in the Gulf of California. But here's the Middle America Trench area showing quite a bit of earthquake activity there, including a couple 4s in the mix. So definitely some major adjustment attempting to take place here along the North American plate. So we'll watch that pretty closely in the coming days, and of course we'll keep it live here on this channel. Let's see, we checked out Yellowstone. Not a whole lot going on there in Yellowstone National Park. Yesterday's tremor activity was pretty low and minimal. Just about 8 epicenters of tremor here along the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Volcanic activity, at least earthquake activity, Mount St. Helens has been kind of bouncing back and forth between active and spotty activity. I'll give these guys a quick glance, see if we got any abnormal activity at any of these volcanoes, considering all the movement we've seen. There's the that's the S waves there from the I believe that's from the, let me check and see exactly when that was. Let's go back to the newer map. I think that's from the 5.6 that struck down there. See, they actually had 3 earthquakes back to back, almost within minutes of each other. They're in the Gulf of California. I've seen these come into the live seismograph last night when it was kicking off. It's pretty crazy looking. So 05 to 05 UTC time. That's probably going to be the where am I at? There we go. 05. Yeah, that's going to be the 5-pointers and those 4s kicking off down there in the Gulf of California. Some S waves kicking up from there. So following that, looks like a little spotty activity in terms of microquakes all over the place here at Mount St. Helens, but no major adjustment, it looks like, or any uptick that I can see there on the map. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's do a solar weather report real quick. Looks green across the board in terms of the aurora forecast. Solar sunspots are still pretty popular and amplified. There's quite a few of them on the sun. Looks like a 90% chance of C flare, 25% chance for an M flare, and 5% chance for an X flare. Things have been somewhat calm over the last 24 hours or so. Haven't seen any of these popping off like I would expect them to, but there's quite a few sunspots here, and they're just kind of floating across so we can observe them, but they're not really doing anything super active at the moment. And further behind here, there's not a whole lot of new development, it looks like. Once this area passes, we could be looking at some quiet areas unless something else does develop rapidly. All right, guys, stay safe out there, and of course, always be prepared. There's quite a bit of activity going on, ramping up all over the place across the North American area, and that, of course, includes the states here. So just be on guard, and make sure you guys have an earthquake plan. You know, there's got to be a reason. We're kind of living in a time right now where, at least here for the states, for the most part, we have been relatively quiet in terms of large earthquake activity, damaging earthquakes. You know, the Ridgecrest earthquake activity, yeah, it was kind of large and whatnot, but we haven't seen any major earthquake activity, damaging earthquakes, in a little while. And of course, as time passes, you know, things build up, and eventually they will pop again. And that includes areas around the South Carolina region, the New Madrid zone, Southern California, the Cascadia. Eventually, it will be super active. It's just a matter of not if, but a matter of when. You know, time takes a little time to build these things up. But then again, time has already passed. There's quite a bit of time that has passed. So, all right, guys, I'm going to bounce off here and enjoy this beautiful Saturday. Got some beautiful cumulus clouds floating through the air and trying to build up right now into some thunderstorms. We'll see if they pop up and get enough strength going today. If they do, then I'll be out streaming for those storms. If not, then we'll just kick back in our backyard and enjoy the day. So take care, guys. We'll chat to you a little bit later. Stay safe out there.